Dear viewers, there are moments in life when a simple request can change everything. A man walks into a busy repair shop, not with money in his hands, but with hunger in his stomach and a strange spark in his eyes. The workers laugh at him, certain he is nothing but a burden, a shadow on their doorway. But what if the one you mock holds a story greater than you can imagine? What if the person you push aside is carrying secrets powerful enough to turn shame into shock and doubt into respect? This is not just a story about cars or repairs. It is a story about judgment, hidden worth, and the way truth always finds its voice. Stay with me, because as each moment unfolds, you will see that appearances deceive, and the one left standing in silence may hold the loudest truth of all.
Can I fix it in exchange for food? The voice was calm, yet it carried a weight that made everyone inside Premium Auto Repair look up. At the entrance stood a man who looked like life itself had beaten him down. His gray hair was messy, his clothes torn, and his face carried the roughness of many nights on the street. His name was Robert Wilson, though no one there knew it yet. To them, he was just another hungry homeless man looking for pity. Inside the garage, the air smelled of oil and burnt rubber. A Porsche 911 sat with its hood open, the engine silent after 3 long days of failed repairs. Andrew Walker, the arrogant owner of the shop, barely raised his head from the paperwork on his desk. Another one of these beggars. "Kevin, call security." Kevin, the youngest mechanic, laughed loudly. "Grandpa thinks he can fix a Porsche for a sandwich. Did you hear that, Joshua?" Joshua, older and more experienced, chuckled while wiping grease off his hands. "Man, this is rich. 3 days we've been on this car, and this guy thinks he can fix it for food? What a joke!" The room filled with laughter, but Robert didn't flinch. His dark eyes, though tired, held a strange spark. He wasn't begging for coins or pity. He stood tall, scanning the Porsche's engine like a man looking at something familiar, almost personal. Only one person in the workshop didn't laugh, Sophia Mitchell, the only woman working there. She watched him from the back, her arms folded. Something about the way he looked at the car made her pause. This wasn't the blank stare of a hungry man guessing. It was the sharp, focused look of someone who knew. "What's wrong with the car?" Robert asked, ignoring their laughter. That question silenced the shop for a moment. Andrew finally got up from his chair, irritated. "The problem is that you're standing in my shop like you belong here." Robert didn't respond to the insult. His eyes stayed on the Porsche. Joshua, trying to prove a point, turned the ignition. The engine coughed, sputtered, then stalled, just like it had every other time. Fuel pressure sensor. The direct injection system is failing. That's why it dies at high revs. Not a mechanical problem, an electronic one. The laughter stopped. Kevin frowned. "How the hell do you know that just by listening?" Robert didn't answer him. He simply tilted his head, that same quiet authority in his voice. "It's a known fault. That sound always means inconsistent data to the control unit. The engine cuts fuel as protection." Sophia's eyes narrowed. That was too specific, too confident. Mechanics with years of training struggled with that kind of detail. Andrew waved his hand dismissively. "Lucky guess. Anyone can spit out fancy words." Robert smiled faintly. "It wasn't a guess. Give me your diagnostic scanner. I'll prove it." The garage grew tense. Andrew hated being challenged, especially by someone he saw as less than human. He grinned cruelly. "All right, let's make it fun. You get the sensor right, I'll give you $20 and a sandwich. If you're wrong, you leave and never come back, and I'll film the whole thing for the internet." Kevin laughed, already pulling out his phone. "This is going to be gold." Robert nodded calmly, as if such wagers were nothing new. He walked over to the expensive OBD scanner, his hands steady, his focus absolute. Sophia noticed it. He wasn't nervous. He looked like a man who had done this 1,000 times before. The machine beeped as he connected it. Kevin whispered to Joshua, "Bet he doesn't even know how to turn it on." But Robert's fingers moved with speed and precision. He navigated through menus that Joshua himself rarely touched in 20 years of work. Silence filled the shop except for the beeping of the scanner. "There it is," Robert said, finally, pointing to the screen. "Code P0294. Fuel pressure sensor outside parameters. Exactly what I said." Joshua stepped forward, checked the screen, and froze. His face drained of color. "That's right." Kevin's phone lowered slowly. He had no joke left. Andrew quickly pocketed his own phone, annoyed that the humiliation he planned had backfired. "Beginner's luck," he muttered, though his voice wasn't as strong. Robert turned toward him. "Want me to explain why the sensor fails when the fuel filter isn't changed on time?" His tone was sharp now, almost dangerous. Andrew didn't answer him. Sophia took a step closer, her curiosity burning. "How do you know all this? Most people can't even pronounce those systems, let alone explain them." Robert hesitated, his eyes carrying an old sadness. "I've worked with sports cars before." Andrew smirked. "Where? The junkyard?" Laughter tried to rise again, but it wasn't the same. Even Kevin looked uneasy. Robert's silence said more than words. Then, without warning, Robert walked over to a BMW X5 in the corner. It had been sitting there for weeks, waiting for a new engine. "This car doesn't need an engine," he said. "It needs a high-pressure fuel pump. You quoted $15,000 for a replacement engine when the problem is a $1,200 part." Andrew stiffened. "How could you know that?" "Because I heard the sound when you started it earlier. I can prove it." Sophia's breath caught as she watched him point out the worn fuel lines, the corrosion on the pump. Joshua rushed to test it with another scanner and confirmed it. The BMW didn't need an engine at all. "My God," Sophia whispered, "we were about to rob a customer for $14,000. Andrew's face burned with anger. He wanted to throw Robert out, but he couldn't deny the truth standing before him. Robert looked him straight in the eye. "Tricks? These aren't tricks. This is knowledge." The garage was silent again. For the first time, they weren't looking at a beggar. They were looking at someone they didn't understand, someone who carried authority without asking for it. Andrew finally sneered, trying to save face. "You still want that sandwich, or are you going to keep pretending you're an expert?" Robert's eyes darkened. His voice was low, almost broken. "I've been many things in my life, but I've never pretended to be something I'm not." He turned and began walking toward the door. The mechanics said nothing. Even Kevin lowered his eyes, guilt twisting in his chest. Sophia, however, couldn't look away. She felt something bigger hidden in this man's story, something she couldn't explain. From the window, she watched Robert walk slowly down the street, his shoulders heavy, his hands deep in his pockets. For a moment, he stopped in front of a missing child's photo taped to a lamppost. He stared at it, and though no one inside could see, a single tear slid down his cheek. Sophia pressed her hand to her mouth. She didn't know who Robert Wilson.
"Tell me who you are." The chair where Robert had sat yesterday was empty. Morning light slipped through dusty windows at Premium Auto Repair. Oil and metal scented the air. The Porsche 911 still waited with its hood open. The BMW X5 sat in a corner, spared from a fake engine job. At the office computer, Sophia Mitchell began to type. Direct injection, fuel pressure sensor, high pressure pump. Each term matched what Robert had said. It did not feel like luck, it felt like memory. Kevin wandered in, yawning. "You're early." "I'm checking something," Sophia said. Andrew Walker arrived, phone in hand, face tight. "No talk about yesterday," he said. "We work." Joshua nodded, but he kept glancing at the Porsche. Sophia stopped scrolling. A years-old forum thread. A user who wrote like a teacher. Clear steps, simple words. Name? Darkhorse_racing. He warned that neglecting the filter on this Porsche would kill the fuel sensor. The same sequence, the same voice. The door beeped. Robert Wilson walked in, cleaner than yesterday, but still rough at the edges. A woman stood with him, calm dress, calm eyes. "Good morning," Robert said. This is Emily Johnson. She owns a McLaren 720S. Your shop called it beyond repair." Andrew froze, then forced a smile. "Ms. Johnson, welcome." Emily's gaze moved across the room and landed on Robert. "He told me something last night in the hotel parking lot. It made sense. I want him to try." Kevin lifted his chin. "This is a pro shop, ma'am." Sophia stepped forward. "Let him try." Robert approached the McLaren like greeting an old friend. He opened the hood and traced wires and grounds with steady hands. The shop went quiet, except for a ticking clock and street noise. "What's your call?" Joshua asked. "Hybrid control module. Software conflict between the electric motor and the engine, seen in some 2019 builds. Fix is a proper flash, but first, power and ground must be clean." Andrew scowled. "And you know that how?" "Tools, please," Robert said. They gave him the tools. Time settled into a steady line. Robert cleaned contacts, corrected a bruised wire, and ran a deep scan. He spoke as he worked. "Start simple. If power is dirty, logic fails. If ground is weak, numbers lie." Emily stood near Sophia. "He was by the curb last night looking at a small photo. He asked if I had children. Then he fixed my friend's warning light without lifting the hood. I believed him." Sophia nodded. "He carries hurt, but he carries order too." Robert looked up. "Start it?" Emily turned the key. The McLaren 720S woke smooth and sure. No stumble, no lights, just a clean idle. Kevin blinked. Joshua exhaled. Andrew stared. Emily smiled at Robert. "Thank you. No charge," she said. "Please, let me pay you. I came for a chance, not money." The words stayed in the air like a truth no one wanted to touch. Andrew stepped in. "We can finish the service here. Standard rates." Emily's calm turned firm. "No, Robert will tell me what the car needs. I will choose where to do it." She gave Robert a card. "If you want a place that respects you, call me." She drove away. Silence held. Andrew faced Robert. "You made your point. Now what?" "I want a real shot. Let me work, judge me by the work." Andrew hated the man and needed him at the same time. "1 week, that's all I can offer." Robert nodded. Sophia walked with him to the sidewalk. Buses rolled by. A man with a blue cart sold hot bread. Heat lifted from the street. "Why do you help people who laugh at you?" she asked. "Because fixing one thing right still matters, even when the rest is broken." She wanted to ask about the photo. Instead, she said, "Thank you, for the BMW and for today." He raised a hand and left. Back at the desk, Sophia opened the forum again. Post after post, the same tone as Robert. Simple, patient, exact. One link led to a race clip. Miami Grand Prix. A bright day, a car skated close to the wall, sparks, a quick spin, then silence. The clip ended without names. Sophia leaned back. The thread, the clip, the man, the single tear she had seen by the lamppost. The lines began to connect. Kevin passed behind her. "What's that?" "Old race footage," she said. "You think he was a driver?" "I think he was someone, and he still is." Andrew called from the floor. "Sophia, work!" She closed the clip, but not the thought. She printed the thread and slid the pages into her bag. That night, the sky hung low over the city. Sophia sat at her small table with the pages like a puzzle. The username, the tone, the dates. She opened a new tab and typed slower. Racing legend disappears. Miami crash. Missing from the grid. A list of names scrolled by. She clicked an old article. A podium, a flag, a quiet smile. Her phone buzzed. A new number. "Thank you for speaking up today. .R." She stared at the letter. She typed back. "You fixed more than a car." Across town, under a warm streetlight, Robert unfolded a small photo. A child's face looked back at him. He folded it, slid it into his pocket, then lay on a hard bench and watched the sky. He did not sleep. Sophia opened a short clip. The driver in the fire suit spoke in plain words, the same kind Robert used. Start simple. Trust the signs. Don't force it. She drew a circle around the date of the Miami crash and wrote one word beside it. Why? Between the clip and the page, an answer formed. She could feel it, close as breath. Very soon, morning would tell her if she was right.
The sun was already high when Robert Wilson walked back into Premium Auto Repair. He looked the same as always. Worn shoes, tired jacket, gray hair. Yet something about his steps was different. He was not hiding today. Behind him came Emily Johnson, and with her, 3 other figures. One man wore a dark suit and carried the weight of authority in his walk. His name was Patrick Ward, CEO of Ward's Automotive Group, the largest luxury dealership chain on the East Coast. Andrew Walker felt his throat dry. The man who controlled contracts worth millions was standing in his shop, next to the homeless man he had mocked. "Mr. Wilson," Ward said warmly, shaking Robert's hand. "When Emily told me what you did with her McLaren 720S, I had to see for myself." Andrew forced a smile. "Patrick, welcome. This is just a misunderstanding. Yesterday—" Ward cut him off with a calm but sharp tone. "I didn't come here for excuses. I came here because I'm looking for talent. Emily believes this man is someone worth trusting. I do too." Kevin and Joshua stood frozen. Sophia Mitchell, on the other hand, felt her chest tighten. She knew this moment would come. She had spent the whole night researching, printing articles, watching clips. She stepped forward with her laptop. "Before you make any decision, I need everyone here to see something." She pulled up a photo. A younger man, dressed in a racing suit, stood on a podium. The crowd behind him roared, banners waving. The caption read, "Robert Wilson, 3-time Formula One world champion, known as the Ghost." Kevin's mouth dropped open. Joshua shook his head like he had seen a ghost himself. Andrew went pale. "That's impossible. That's not him," Andrew stammered. She clicked again. Videos rolled, Robert overtaking at impossible corners, holding trophies, his face clear as day. Then another clip, the Miami Grand Prix crash. His car hit the wall at full speed, spun, and silence followed. The article explained the tragedy. His young daughter, watching from the stands, suffered a heart attack from the shock. His wife, broken, later ended her life. Robert walked away from racing and disappeared. Now here he stood in the middle of their shop. Robert said nothing. His eyes were downcast, his voice quiet. "I lost everything. I gave away what I had. After that, I didn't deserve more." The room was heavy. Even Kevin, who mocked him the most, swallowed hard. Joshua rubbed his face, ashamed. Sophia touched Robert's arm gently. "You didn't lose your gift. You only lost faith in yourself." Patrick Ward stepped forward. "Mr. Wilson, I want you to lead my performance division. Salary, bonuses, whatever you need. You belong in the world of cars, not on the street." Robert looked at him, then at Sophia. She was the only one who believed before the truth came out. His gaze lingered, soft with gratitude. Andrew tried to speak. "Mr. Ward, please, you don't understand. He's just—" Sophia snapped. "Enough. Yesterday you wanted to film his humiliation for clicks. You laughed while he offered knowledge you couldn't match. You wanted to profit from his pain. Now the whole world knows who he is and who you are." At that moment, Robert held out his hand. "Show him the video, Sophia." Sophia pressed play on her phone. It showed Andrew, Kevin, and Joshua mocking Robert, calling him names, offering $20 for work worth thousands. The clip had already spread online. Comments scrolled fast. make people furious at the way he was treated. Patrick Ward's expression hardened. "Andrew Walker, I cannot do business with men who treat people this way. Consider our contract canceled. 50 cars a month. We'll take them elsewhere." Emily added coldly, "And I'll tell every client I know to avoid this shop. Reputation spreads fast." Andrew's legs almost gave out. His empire, his pride, was crumbling in minutes. Robert turned to him. His voice was calm, not cruel. "Yesterday, you told me I should know my place. Today, you've learned yours. Respect is not about money or clothes or power. It's about seeing the human being standing in front of you." Andrew's mouth opened, but no words came. Robert turned back to Patrick. "I appreciate your offer. I'll accept, but only if Sophia Mitchell works with me. She believed in me before the truth came out." Sophia's heart skipped. She hadn't expected that. Ward smiled. "Done. Sophia, welcome to the team." Kevin stepped forward nervously. "Robert, I'm sorry. I didn't know." Robert raised a hand. "You knew enough. You knew I was hungry. You knew I was human. That should have been enough to treat me right." Kevin lowered his head. The deal was sealed. Reporters gathered outside, cameras ready. Robert Wilson walked out not as a homeless man, but as a man restored. He shook Ward's hand, stood beside Emily, and nodded at Sophia. Andrew, Kevin, and Joshua remained in the shadows of the shop, watching their world collapse. Calls buzzed Andrew's phone, contracts canceled, customers pulling out, suppliers cutting ties. Premium auto repair was finished. 6 months later, Robert Wilson stood in a glass office inside Ward's automotive group. Behind him hung photos of his races, but also a new picture, Sophia and the team smiling beside him. A Netflix documentary told his story of triumph, tragedy, and return. Millions watched, inspired by the man once called the Ghost. And Premium Auto Repair? Its doors were shut, a for lease sign hanging where pride once lived. Andrew's name was whispered only as a warning of arrogance. In an interview, Robert said, "Prejudice blinds people. They laughed at me because of my clothes, not my skill. But kindness sees deeper. I stand here today because someone chose to look past what they saw and believe." He paused, eyes misty but steady. The best revenge is not anger. The best revenge is to rise again and help others rise too. And with that, Robert Wilson, once broken, was whole again.